Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into a movie that's as beautiful as it is thought-provoking.
I am. Let's do it.
We're talking Paolo Sorrentino's Youth,
Okay.
a film that explores what it means to create, to love, and to grapple with aging.
Mm.
It follows two old friends, Fred, a retired composer,
Yep.
and Mick, a film director, still in the game,
Yeah.
as they vacation in the Alps and reflect on their lives. We've got two really insightful AI analyses of youth, and get this, they offer completely different takes on what the film is actually saying.
See, that's what I love about this show. What's so fascinating here is how these analyses, while distinct, actually work together to enrich our understanding of the film's themes.
Exactly.
It's like they each unlock a different layer of meaning.
It's true. One of the first things that jumped out was this idea of libido. Now, before anyone skips ahead 30 seconds, we're not just talking about its, shall we say, conventional definition.
Okay.
We're thinking about it more broadly.
It's about so much more than that.
Yeah.
Think of it as this inner fire, this energy that pushes us to create, to connect, to truly engage with the world. It's that spark that makes us feel alive.
So it's less about physical desire and more about that drive to really live, right?
Absolutely. And what's interesting is how the film explores this libido through the contrasting characters of Fred and Mick. Fred, having stepped away from his music, seems to have lost that spark.
Which is kind of a paradox, right? Because he's this incredibly talented composer.
Right.
So it makes you wonder, is it really just age or is it something more?
It's a question the film grapples with beautifully. You see, Fred's withdrawal from music, from his feelings, even suggests a suppression of this vital life force.
And this internal struggle that Fred's going through, it really comes to a head with Mick's suicide, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a pivotal moment in the film, one that the analyses interpret in strikingly different ways.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the surface, Mick's suicide seems like it could be interpreted as this tragic surrender to despair.
For that's actually how the first analysis frames it.
Mm.
Mick, feeling his age and the decline of his creative powers, chooses to end his life rather than face a future seemingly devoid of meaning and purpose.
Which, let's be honest, feels like a pretty natural way to read that moment. But then the second analysis comes along and kind of turns that whole interpretation on its head.
Exactly. It presents this really intriguing idea, suggesting that Mick's suicide is actually his final and perhaps most impactful artistic statement. It proposes that Mick's death is a meticulously crafted meta-movie.
A meta-movie. Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent film theory, what exactly does that mean?
Well, imagine a film within a film. One is self-aware, commenting on the nature of storytelling itself.
Okay.
Think of Birdman or Adaptation. Movies that constantly blur the lines between reality and fiction, drawing the audience into a deeper conversation about the act of creation. This analysis suggests that Mick's suicide is essentially him directing his own ending, using his death to elicit a profound emotional response from those who knew him.
And the target audience for this meta-movie is Fred, right?
Yeah, precisely. Mick sees that Fred is emotionally stagnant, trapped in his own past. This analysis suggests that Mick recognizes that only something this shocking, this tragically profound, could shake Fred out of his emotional paralysis and force him to confront his own mortality and regrets.
Wow, so we're really talking about art imitating life, imitating art here.
Right.
It's a lot, but it's really a powerful idea, this notion that Mick might be using his death as a final artistic act to jolt Fred back to life.
And whether or not you buy into that specific interpretation, it undeniably adds a whole new layer to the film. Because even if it wasn't intentional on Mick's part, his death does serve as this catalyst for Fred. It's like a crack in his carefully constructed emotional wall.
And we see that most clearly in his relationship with his daughter, Lena, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lena is going through her own struggles, dealing with the fallout of a painful divorce and trying to find her own identity.
Which, if we think back to that idea of libido, is really interesting because it shows that this driving life force isn't limited to just creativity or romantic love. It's about finding your own sense of purpose, your own inner spark.
I love that you picked up on that connection. Lena's journey is a powerful reminder that this vital energy can express itself in so many different ways. And for Fred, that reawakening manifests in his music.
You're talking about that final scene where he conducts simple songs.
Yes. It's such a beautiful and moving moment in the film. After holding himself back for so long, Fred finally allows himself to reconnect with his passion, with his grief, with the full spectrum of human experience. It's like he's finally letting go of the past and embracing the present moment.
So we've got these two aging artists, each facing their own mortality and grappling with the complexities of life and creativity. What does youth, when viewed through these insightful analyses, ultimately tell us about ourselves. Even if we aren't renowned artists, what can we take away from this exploration?
I think this film reminds us that life is a journey, with its share of triumphs and heartbreaks, of passions pursued and passions seemingly lost. And it suggests that there's beauty in embracing the full spectrum of human experience, the highs and the lows, and that even in the face of loss and uncertainty, there's always potential for renewal, for rekindling that inner spark, that libido that makes us feel truly alive.
It makes you wonder if sometimes the greatest legacy we leave behind isn't a masterpiece or grand achievement, but rather the impact we have on others, the connections we forge, and the inspiration we ignite in those around us.
What a beautiful thought to end on.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about. If you haven't already seen Youth, we highly recommend giving it a watch. And if you have, well, maybe it's time for a rewatch with fresh eyes. Until next time, thanks for diving deep with us.